introduce you. Dustin, this is Chris Tarr. Chris, Dustin, Tatro.
Hi, Chris.
Hi there.
That is my first name also. I'm a Christopher myself.
Oh, nice.
So Chris oftentimes runs sound at his church. Is it Brooklife Church? Is that what you call it, Chris?
Yep.
Yeah. And so Dustin is a choir director and also plays organ, which is pretty unusual set of talents for a broadcast engineer.
There's
A
a
man
few.
of
John
many
Benedict,
talents.
who's one of the new organists for the Cubs, is a radio producer, talk radio up in Chicago.
Oh, okay. Suncast, you don't have any like baseball stadium organ music, do you? You know, like doodle doo 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 or bum 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 bum. What is that piece
I
called?
might
That
if we weren't out at a mountain.
Yeah.
what's that piece called? That progressively goes up.
Oh, they're all like just charges and things.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's just another form of charge. Okay.
We use the little Zorba the Great thing a lot, the bullfight type thing that also goes up, but with a little more urgency.
Nice.
All righty. Let me, Dustin, I'm going to do a little distribution of our show now where we take the feed from the guys from Queens Network, the GFQ network, and we make it impossible to miss on Facebook. So there we go. Hang on. We're getting that done.
And this is on demand also later, right?
Yeah, exactly. It goes out live right now on YouTube and Facebook, and then we'll Suncast tonight will edit this into a package with a proper intro and outro, and then it'll get published. And then tomorrow I will republish it in various places, and I'll send you an email, Dustin, that gives you links to places that it exists if you want to send those out. But it's easy to find it on YouTube. I will like and share this out to a page, to TWiRT.
And I don't know at any point when I'm going to have to tag. So I use your ad-libbing skills from TWiRT.
Well, I tell you what, Dustin, something I didn't cover with you or with Chris at all, and I'm so sorry I didn't. It was last minute. I have a 14-minute interview that is pre-recorded that needs to be played sometime during the hour. So,
Excellent.
Dustin, if you find that you need to leave soon to go do some tagging, let us know. We'll jump to that interview and get you when you come back. Hopefully you can be back in 15 minutes.
It takes about 2 or 3 minutes each time. Yeah. And I'm literally standing where I need to be. So.
Okay. Well, if we get to about 45 minutes past the hour and you haven't had to leave yet, we will have a segment where we go to that video, but Dustin, I'd like you to hang on to the end of the show because we tagged the end of the show with a tip of the week. Chris Tarr has a tip of the week, and I'd like for you to think of a tip of the week.
Okay, I can work on that.
I'm almost done. I know. Usually I bring this up at the last second, don't I?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Yes, I'm just, even after 739 shows, I'm still not very good at this. All right. I think we're about ready for me. It's top of the hour, and I see myself full screen now. Thank you, Suncast. Excellent job as usual. Hi, everybody on the network. Glad you're here with us live. This is the part of the show that gets cut out for the final published version. We were making some sausage, and we're getting ready to get the finished product here. All right. It is episode 739 for March 13th, 2025. I have my energy drink here with me, and I think we're about ready to go. So we'll start This Week in Radio Tech in 3, 2, Hey, welcome into This Week in Radio Tech, the show where we talk about everything from the microphone to that light bulb at the top of the tower. Hey, I'm Kirk Harnack. So glad that you're with us. It's our 739th episode. And I'm here in the Nashville studio of the Telos Alliance studio in Nashville, Tennessee. We've got some bad weather on the way, but right now it's pretty good. It's been a beautiful sunny day, and wow, 75, 76 degrees. Ooh, according to the temperature outside, it's just gorgeous. And we've got a fun show for you today. Our guest is on site. We'll get to our guest in just a minute. But first, let's bring in our erstwhile co-host, and that is Chris Tarr. Hey, Chris, it's great to see you, man.
Hey there, Kirk. And I'm not in any specific special studio. I'm at home, the home office.
Yeah.
And tomorrow, if you can believe it, in Wisconsin, it is supposed to be 76. So I'm really excited about that, which is going to last a day. Then it's going to be down into the 40s again. So that is spring in Wisconsin for you. Been spending some time on the road. Did some work yesterday with some codecs and things, and so hopefully here I got some little bit more to do tomorrow, and then I think I can take a little bit of a break. But a lot of running around this time of year. It starts to pick back up again.
Well, I wish you well and hope you stay warm in the cooler weather. But man, tomorrow sounds like a shorts and sandals day in McWanago.
Absolutely. I'm going to get out. I unfortunately have to be out in the field tomorrow, darn it. And I got to be outside at a couple of transmitter sites, which is a shame in this beautiful weather.
Is there a dress code at the transmitter sites?
No. See, that's the good thing about being the boss. I can decide what I want to wear. Tomorrow it's going to be shorts. There you go. I'm not going to be doing any kind of dangerous work, so I don't need to be covered up. I'm doing IP radio work, so I'm just going to sit in front of a computer up there. So I should be good to go.
Something behind the scenes here, some inside baseball, is that oftentimes I kind of leave Chris in the dark about who our guest is, because with Chris's work schedule, I never know for sure if he's going to join us or not. Thankfully, he was able to join us today. And Chris, you remember I texted you earlier today, and I told you how excited I was about our guest today. You remember that? Yeah,
I do.
And it's so great, Chris. I know you know engineers who have talents outside of broadcast engineering, although a lot of us are kind of one-trick wonders. We do broadcast engineering, and that's about all we do well. Maybe we eat well and snore well, but the rest of our lives are pretty much broadcast engineering. But today's guest is an interesting fellow. Are you ready to meet him?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
All right. We're going to go out in the field to a tower site in Texas where Dustin Tatro is waiting for us. Dustin, hey, welcome in. It's good to see you. Uh-oh. Where'd he go? Is he tagging a line? Oh, that's him.
He's tagging a line.
Well, tell you what, this is a perfect opportunity. Tell you what, well, I promise you, viewers, I promise you, this is going to be a fun show because Dustin is really good at lots of things in radio, including audio over IP and audio processing. And when we introduce him fully after this quick break, you'll know more about Dustin. I can't wait to introduce him to you, just like I want to introduce him to Chris as well. So tell you what, this is a great time to take our quick break, and then we will introduce you to Dustin. He's tagging a line. He's helping a tower crew right now. We'll be right back. We got a quick word from Ricky Lee of AIR.com. So check it out. Hey, it's Kirk Harnack, and I'm here with Ricky Lee, the CEO of AIR. Ricky, you guys make a fantastic automation system, but streaming is a really big deal. Tell me about streaming with AIR.
It really is. We've got a beautiful streaming platform with an incredible dashboard with fantastic analytics. And you can buy it for just $20 a month. All you can eat. No limits on bandwidth or bit rates. And you can also record shows as well. So if you like to deliver on-demand content for $20 a month, you can stream and deliver that on-demand content to an RSS feed that can feed your radio player, your mobile apps, or a podcast that people can download and enjoy.
Now, $20 a month, that must be for just some slow MP3, right?
No, MP3, AAC, and we also now support HLS, which is big in the industry right now.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. How do I start to explore or find out more about streaming through AIR?
You go to air.com, AIIR.com/streaming. And from there, with a credit card, you can sign up and get started.
Check it out from Air, and we appreciate Air.com. Air is the parent company that runs the Playout One platform, which we love. We've got that at all of our radio stations, and I was just talking to somebody about it earlier this week. Thanks a lot, Ricky, and everybody else at Air for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech. Okay, it's Kirk and Chris, and let's see, do we have our guest back yet? Is he back? Hey,
Yes, we
there he
do.
is. Hey, Dustin. Actually, your timing was great. We have an early commercial. We hit it just fine. So, Chris Tarr, meet Dustin, and Dustin. I'll tell you a couple things about Dustin. So, this is the cool. This is what really caught my ear. Dustin plays a musical instrument. He may play more than one, but he plays the organ. And this means he plays at church. So, he plays sacred music at church, but he also plays at the ballpark. That is the coolest thing. Dustin, tell me a little bit about yourself. What do you want us to know?
I'm actually a semi-retired Major League Baseball organist.
Oh, my
And
goodness.
I played for the Texas Rangers from 2020 to the end of 2023 season. And you know how 2023 ended for the Rangers. And now we've in my hometown of Abilene have started a brand new summer independent league pro ball team. Last summer, I got to play for those games live, and they also won their season. So I'm starting to get quite a collection of these little things here.
Oh my goodness, look at that. Chris, is that surprising? I've never met a ballpark organist before.
No, I know Savannah Bananas. I don't know if you're familiar with them. The PA guy who does all that is a friend of mine. But other than that, no, I've never been in this kind of rarefied air.
Oh, that's a great term, rarefied air. So, Dustin, aside from your musical skills, including choir conducting, you really do enjoy broadcast engineering. You do other things in broadcasting, some management, that kind of thing. But tell me what you really like about engineering, and then we're going to riff on some of those topics.
All right. As of this year, I am what they believe is the youngest member of the TAB Golden Mike Club, which is people with 25 years in broadcast service or more. And they're like, how are you not even 40 yet? And that's true. Well, I started in the fourth grade, 1999, back home in a little town of Andrews, Texas, recording PSAs for the Lions Club that my parents were in. Was bitten into the engineering side of things. Dad was a longtime ham radio operator. Got his novice ticket in high school in the early 60s. And I followed his steps, got my Tech Plus and then General in 99. And just last year, finally got around to doing my extra.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Okay. Well, you and Chris Tarr and me have something in common. Although with different brands of systems, you are a big fan of audio over IP technology. And, I find that, younger guys like you and Chris Tarr are typically big fans of this tech. Why don't you tell us about how you got into AOIP and what you like about it?
We started off in this company here. They had some web stations, 6 of them. There, of course, I mentioned they're an ISP, and they had acquired an automation system that got them a big discount on some little 8-channel AOIP boards from another manufacturer. So the base of our new facility started with that. And we now have 5 separate speeds and 8 frequencies. I absolutely could not do my job without AOIP. It's from our news talk and sports talk that board up themselves through Logic to our remotes. There's no way I could do it. We're a rather large, small town operation with one guy that's full time. And yeah, you see who it is.
You said something before, actually, when I talked to you yesterday and today too. You mentioned AOIP lets you do your job, and Chris Tarr, that sounds like something you would say. Why don't you riff on that idea a bit, that AOIP lets you do your job?
Oh, well, it's simple. I mean, I've got 20 some stations and I've got studios and transmitters all over the place. And I rely on audio over IP in order for me to handle that. Because if there was manual stuff all over, I'd be driving all the time. So here's a perfect example, because I was working on this yesterday. We just put in a new a backup automation machine, a transmitter site. and we put it into a node because we're able to add other things to it then later on and make changes automatically. And we have a station that soon is going to be changing its programming from something local to something over an IP codec. I mean, it's still local, but it's not going to be originating out of that studio anymore. So we have that run through a node, knowing that when it's time to make the change, we can just log in and change the source on the node. So I've got that data center at Fort Atkinson where a lot of our stations run on. I mean, just the ability to reconfigure audio paths for things like sporting events, equipment failures, things that would take me on the road for 3 hours or whatever. I can do from home, from the couch. So I absolutely understand what he's saying. I couldn't do what I do without audio over IP as kind of the engine behind it.
Yeah, well, I agree completely. So, Dustin, you're at a tower site right now, and you said that the company that owns your radio stations is themselves an internet service provider. Isn't that right?
That's right. And that actually has really translated well to AOIP at our radio station. We do have a hardware codec that goes to one transmitter site, but everything else is that AOIP direct to the processor and transmitter. There's absolutely no noise floor on it, even on the FM analog side. And we do broadcast HD, but you can stop down for 5-10 seconds, crank the studio monitors up, and hear absolute dead silence.
I know.
They're using 18 gig licensed backhaul links and MPLS to accomplish that. So it's a straight pipe. Those processors, for all intents and purposes, believe they're in the rack room at the radio
Sure.
station. There's really
I'd
no
like to.
STL.
I'd like to ask you about your experience with IP radios. You said you're using 18 gig licensed radios. I've used licensed and unlicensed radios, the unlicensed ones in very rural areas where interference is very unlikely. Tell me about what kind of setup you or the ISP guys, the IT guys tend to do so that IP radio will pass the multicast or maybe the SIP unicast audio that from your AOIP system there. What setup is important?
When we first put our brand new studios on the air, which we're in a hangar that the company owns. Our owner is a big aviation buff and a pilot, and we had rooms in this recently renovated facility that we were able to put the station into. So ground up, just running network cables. They are using fiber from that building up to the north end of the property where there's a tower where those backhauls are. They like using Cambium, and as I said, they're all licensed. This is what would link communities together where there are WISP networks back into where the closest place there's fiber. So there's very high throughput on them. We had a rather comical issue when we first put the studio on air when we just had our first station. And it sounded like there was a rattlesnake sitting in the chair in the studio, just tapping its tail along with the music. And as it turns out, that was called the IGMP snooping querier. And the querier, it's a little tick box in the switch apparently, was not ticked, and that was the entire issue. So it's been a learning curve. But we have a very brilliant network engineer that oversees that network. They run all the way from Weatherford, Texas, out to Van Horn. So it's a very, very wide space.
Are you needed right now to hold the tagline?
I'm going to move to a little quieter spot. I've got some relief on that tagline.
Okay.
Say that again?
I just wondered if you needed to go to hold the tagline.
No, I think Dennis is going to grab it for just a minute. But,
okay.
I will help him as I can.
So I want to hit another topic then. So you're using some IP radios to get your signal to transmitter site, and I take it the same radio path is also carrying. Well, you mentioned HD radio, I think, from Nautel. You got like a multicast plus box or something like that.
We are all an all Nautel plant, Nautel GV5s, and we love them. Something goes wrong, it's modular. It's not the component level repair I first learned how to do with some of the engineers in my area, where every time a Continental 816 got hit by lightning, you had to go change that little voltage regulator chip in the exciter. All of our processing and HD encoding is transmitter site based. What that does is also allows us to be very, very precise and very stable on our time alignment. I have not had to adjust it. It has not drifted more than a couple of samples in 2 years now in one case. So definitely having the IT link and having everything based at the transmitter site makes a huge difference there.
You know, that's a good phrase, and one that we could use for a solid engineer like Chris Tarr. He has not wandered more than a couple of samples in the last couple of years himself.
Well, maybe a year or two here and there, but not a sample.
Chris, in your network, are you using any IP radios to get audio around?
I use almost exclusively IP radios, as a matter of fact. Other than where I have, if I do have sites where I can get fiber, I use that. But I have a lot of sites. The one that I was working on yesterday with the Note that has 1, 2, 3 hops. I have, I think that's probably the most hops I have in a network. Otherwise, point to point. In fact, today I've got a crew working on another hop between 2 of our sites that I've got to go commission tomorrow. That's what I was talking about with being out in the field. So yeah, I use them a lot. I've done live wire over it, and Dustin's right. When you do live wire over IP out to the transmitter site, the sound is just amazing. I did the same thing. I had an Omni 11, so I could go live wire right into the processor from the studio, and talk about just completely transparent, clean, open audio. It sounded fantastic. So we're definitely making the move away from analog STLs. I think I maybe have 1 or 2 stations left on an analog STL. We're moving all to IP now, and just the ability to make the sound quality much better is well worth it.
Yeah. Oh, I agree completely. And I've got several stations on IP radio links running live wire across them. I do have a thought on this, though, and I mentioned this. Well, I've mentioned to you before, Chris, and to Dustin as well yesterday, that if you run audio over IP unbuffered, whether it's live wire, WheatNet, Dante, AES 67, you may now, at least with the cheaper radios that I'm using, you typically have to configure those radios pretty precisely. And at least my experience has been, you have to turn off all of their error correction. You just, and there's no frequency hopping available. Of course, with a licensed radio, there wouldn't be, but you make the radio just run barefoot, and you need a good path. Well, if something goes wrong with a radio, I can't get Joe down the street to replace it. I need to pretty much go there myself. So at a couple locations, we have gone to using micro MPX over the radio link, so that if we ever have to replace a radio, it's a more off-the-shelf replacement than a special setup. Now, I don't know. Am I wrong? I still have one location where I'm doing 3 FM stations over an IP radio, but if one end dies, we're in trouble. Go ahead.
See, I don't use MPX, micro MPX, because I want to be able to have the processor at the transmitter site, because what we do is we use just some commodity off-the-shelf PCs that run a simulcast in parallel runs automation, so that if for some reason we lose that link, it will actually take over from the transmitter. Obviously we can't go live. We don't have EAS, anything like that. So it's just a temporary fix. But it's just one way in case we lose, the link, that we can keep programming on the air. And the other thing is I generally do use off-the-shelf radios, and in most sites, because of the distance and everything else, I'm just running IP link codecs, and that does allow buffering and some of those other things. So, we can use off-the-shelf radios pretty much put up by anybody, and it's plug and play. So that's a little bit of the difference with what we're doing.
Yeah, I like hearing how different people are doing it. Dustin, so you've at the airport, you've got a tower on the airport property with some microwave links. Do I understand that correctly?
Yeah, they initially had planned to do an IPTV setup, a head end for their internet customers. So there's several large satellite dishes up there whenever that comes to fruition, and about a 50-foot tower that has their TV over-the-air pickup. And that's what
Mhm.
is carrying the IP radios to the two transmitter sites in town. Now, we have some simulcasts that actually go through that fiber network. And as I said, he basically used MPLS to make that happen. I wish we had fiber to
Yeah.
everything, but
Tell me about the site that you're at right now. I just saw a shot of it in the background, tower and building. Tell us about that site.
this is KORQ FM Abilene. There's a pretty solid history behind it. It almost every station in Abilene that's an FM music station has flipped calls and formats at some point in time. So this one has been around a little while, and it is currently Q Country, which is farm and ranch radio, primarily Texas country, with some classic and prime built into it. And I can say this. I was on air doing middays for them for about a year and a half, right before I came to West Tex to build these stations. So it's a familiar station to me. This is actually my first time out at the tower side. It's a pretty rough climb to get here.
Oh, really? Is I thought it was kind of flat there. It's not. Is it hilly country?
There's some mountain ranges, well, like plateaus to the south of Abilene, and also to the west, a large mesa there, which is where one of the TV affiliates, the only 1,000-foot tower in our region, is on that plateau to the west of town. Kirk, if you had driven through here on I-20, you would have seen that tower.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
there
I don't know that I've been
mountains from the interstate. You really can't see them.
I've driven through Amarillo, but not through Abilene. But I played a country song about Abilene when I was a country DJ. It's the prettiest place that I've ever seen.
Mr. George Hamilton, we know it well, and there's a lot of local artists that have covered it. This today and Monday have made me realize how blessed I am that all of the tower sites I have in my current job, and there's 8 of them. Yeah, 8 of them now. They are all at regular street level. The Abilene sites are actually in town, so that the access to them, the mesquite thorns are terrible, but not having to go and off-road and rock climb in a Jeep, which I don't have, is very nice. It's hard to get a two-wheel drive Chevy up to these places.
Yeah, I was just going to say, yesterday I was climbing up the side of a bluff and had to drive over a fallen tree in my Jeep. So,
and Chris is up in Wisconsin. What town were you in there with that one, Chris?
that was actually on the Minnesota side of the Mississippi. So that was the Crescent, Minnesota.
Gotcha. Hey, guys, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to talk to Dustin about one of his favorite topics, and that's audio processing. You heard Dustin say that he likes the processing to be at the transmitter site. It's delivered a really super clean, quiet, low noise floor signal from running audio over IP out to the transmitter site. I want to talk to him about his thoughts on audio processing, and also what he thinks about getting certified with SBE, because he's got one of these fancy certified broadcast radio engineer CBRE certificates. So that's coming up. I'm Kirk Harnack along with Chris Tarr. Our show is brought to you in part by our friends at Broadcast Bionics. Love these guys, and check out this about the Bionic Studio.
Welcome to the Bionic Studio. The Bionic Studio brings all audience interaction to the fingertips of a production team in radio, TV, and podcast. Our workflow-led system is working 24/7 around the world for small broadcasters and national and international networks. Our telephony module, Bionic Talk Show, allows cost-effective centralization, remote operation, scalability, and resilience across an entire network of stations, but at the same time is used in single-studio self-op environments. Social media curation and activity is now considered a broadcast-critical part of programming. Bionic Social means the studio isn't overwhelmed with a wall of interaction from an ever-growing number of social platforms. We combine SMS, MMS, and email together with a speech-to-text service for listeners using smart speakers. We enable studio teams to curate, filter, and display all platforms in one place, and post text, images, and video content to multiple platforms in one operation. Effortless collection of video content with Bionic Director has helped position some of the world's most successful stations as leaders in viral content, generating appointments to listen and free marketing via retweets and shares. Bionic Contest enables end-to-end tracking of on-air competitions, live reads, and prizes. These could be on-air contests, automated SMS entry, or online. Anywhere, and Skype TX for Radio brings high-quality audio and video contribution into the studio with ease. No need for dedicated PCs to run different applications. Everything is controlled within the Bionic Studio UI, and incoming connections are visible to users along with all other platforms. Our codec integration enables connection, algorithm configuration, and directory to a wide range of IP and ISDN codecs. The Bionic Studio, a unique suite of products designed to enable your talent to work smarter.
I'll tell you, between talk show, director, contesting, everything else, man, they make some really cool software and some hardware products too. Check it out from Broadcast Bionics. They will make your station look and sound better, interaction with social media, and basically your talent just does what they do now. They just get more output from it. Pretty cool. Thanks a lot, Broadcast Bionics, for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech. And remember, they have the virtual rack as well, which is a great way to put real broadcast functionality virtually into your broadcast chain. All right, I'm Kirk Harnack. Chris Tarr is along with us, and so is Dustin Tatro. Dustin is out at a transmitter site in Abilene, Texas. Dustin, we wanted to talk about audio processing. You've got some thoughts on that because you say you've got a keen ear because you're into music and instruments. So tell us about your talents there.
My hearing sucks. Too
What?
many years of rock music and pipe organ practice has really messed with my high frequency, but I get audiograms and know where that is and where to compensate. But also playing an instrument that has a 9-octave range that's off of both ends of the piano and a lot of nuances. There's a lot of what I'm hearing in music. So we have a variety hits format, Texas country and rock, and then a expanded top 40. But that audio quality matters a lot to me, the clarity, and again, having the cleanness of our processing at the transmitter site delivered by AOIP. And we use AOIP drivers on our playout machines too. Playout 1 does a great job with that. It
Yeah.
never leaves AOIP till it hits the processor. It is so clean, and you can tell a difference.
Chris, that's one thing I've always loved to say is when you use AOIP, okay, accepting maybe a volume adjustment in your audio console, if that's in the chain, the same ones and zeros that come off the wave file end up showing up at the input to the audio processor at the transmitter site. And with no noise added throughout. And what a blessing that is. It lets you do processing more aggressively if you want to, but certainly much, much cleaner when you start with such clean audio, Chris.
Yeah, and the one thing I found difficult at first was it's almost too clean because sometimes that noise and things hid bad stuff. So you have to work at it a little bit differently now. But yeah, I mean it's amazing how the audio in the world kind of opens up when you use audio over IP, and it's super super clean. And I find that I can be just as aggressive with actually less processing because the cleanliness kind of makes up for that. It used to be where you go loud and flat, and now you can be loud and open at the same time because you're not having to fight, all of these other nasties that you have in your air chain. So yeah, I'm a big fan of it because I just think that you can sound big with less nasty artifacts from all that compression and limiting.
Yes.
Dustin, when you're setting up processing, once you get the input levels good and the output level for modulating, whatever's next, good, what do you tend to tune for? Where does your ear and mind go and, guiding your hand to make adjustments? What do you look for?
I can agree with Chris in a lot of ways, and exactly with the AOIP and especially with HD radio, you don't have to compress a whole lot. And I already don't like very much multi-band at all. In fact, I'm pretty sure I have multi-band like at 91, 92% on our flagship variety hits. It tends to do more harm than good. Not even a whole lot of clipping either. It just good processing and good quality audio going into the air chain makes a huge difference. I tend to push the bass enhancement, and I'll say it's Wheatstone. The sites that we broadcast HD, it's an X1, and we use MP532s everywhere else. But there are some wonderful bass processing tools on there. I get that bass strong but clear and punchy, never intensive. And we tend to do a little bit of upper mid frequency enhancement too. But other than that, it's pretty much all AGC.
When you make processing changes, do you have any live jocks that comment on, hey, I sound different, I like it, I don't like it? Or are you all voice tracked and the jocks, maybe they're listening, maybe they think they sound different, maybe they don't notice? What do you get?
Until Monday, it was literally just me and a part-time guy that's actually was a long-time listener. He's retired Air Force firefighter, retired high school custodial supervisor, and was calling in requests every day. So we put him to work. He does a Saturday morning soundtrack show that's a little bit more focused on oldies than our normal rotation. And I'm not sure he would notice. But until Monday, I
Yeah.
was the only on-air jock live. And we just started a morning show Monday with a local guy. He's actually my PA announcer for the Flying Bison. So we sat 6 inches next to each other all summer last year. I tend to
Chris,
spend a
I'm
lot
sorry,
of
go ahead.
time. I will spend a ton of time if something's not vibing with me, but then I will let it set for a long time and wonder if it's just my ears. It's something I stress out a lot about, and really one of the biggest focuses of my jobs is making those stations sound as good as it should, and is in my opinion. So the changes tend to be subtle. But people always say your stations do sound good. The other stations, they use the word distorted, and yeah, we have a problem with overmodulation in Abilene.
Sure.
But they comment on the cleanness.
Well, that leads me to ask, if you were mentoring somebody else and the topic was audio processing, what do you warn a newbie in audio processing? What do you warn them to not do?
We see a lot of independent artists in the Texas country scene. As people might know, a lot of rock influence in Red Dirt, and a lot of independent people, and they will process their stuff and compress and limit the hell out of it. And I always have a feeling that new broadcast engineers or program directors that either want to learn or they're meddling, I'll let you decide which, they're going to want to add a lot of compression and limiting and make it as loud as it can be, and then it just sounds like mud.
Chris, do you ever get the feeling that some people, and I've been guilty of this myself, well, we paid $12,000 for this processor, by golly, I want to hear it work.
Yeah, I'm going to use every one of them dollars.
That's right.
No, I think, I do think that people, because I get compliments all the time. Milwaukee, Madison. I had a guy from New York drive through once and wanted to know what I'm doing. Uh, I find that the first thing that noobs do is crank everything to 11, and that is not the way to go. Yeah, you're going to get loud, and you're going to, it's going to scream. The problem is there's no dynamics to it, and I find my firm belief, and I'm one of the few, fortunately, one of the few in this part of the country. Um, I think the dynamics is what makes you loud. If everything is loud, there's no difference. You have no frame of reference. I like to have a little bit of dynamics because then the difference between not so loud and loud really jumps out. And you actually end up sounding louder because of it, because there's a frame of reference there. And all of a sudden, you've got something kind of in your face. And, I kind of look at it as theatric. It's kind of a, it's an event. And yeah, best way I described it is we had a PD once who said it's like this kind of feeling that you get when you listen to the radio, when you listen to one of our stations, that it's just you get into this kind of vibe with it. And So yeah, I mean, I think the common mistake is cranking everything up because of the fear of being, the need to be loudest. And one of the things that I recommend and that I do, and unfortunately my coworkers sometimes don't do this, is I don't listen to the other stations. I don't care what they sound like. I care what I sound like. And by default, if I'm sounding good, I'm going to sound better than everybody else. So, I think sometimes we end up chasing competitors. We end up trying to be the loudest on the dial. None of that matters. It really doesn't nowadays, especially. And in the world of MP3s and those sorts of things, clean, moderately compressed, but clean open audio is really what's going to jump out compared to the satellite radios and the Pandoras and whatever. That's really the big thing.
Boy, well said, well said. And for those people who you mentioned MP3s, and sometimes I've gone to stations and they want advice on audio processing, and I look and see, and their half their library came from Napster, right? Remember Napster? Well,
Right.
back when it was 12-year-olds dubbing MP3s. And MP3, or nowadays AAC, actually for the last 20 years, AAC, are okay as a last mile delivery mechanism, but if you carry a tune with MP3 with some kind of psychoacoustic codec, and after that you process it with multiband processing, and then you clip and limit it, you end up with garbage because MP3, the whole idea is to hold the artifacts down to just below the level of perception of your ears. So it sounds okay if you don't process it. But if you do process it, you bring up a lot of junk. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Then
Well, and you got to.
Then you process it, and then you put it on HD, and everyone says, "What is the washing machine?"
Yeah. Well, well, you're right. You're right. Dustin's hit it on the head. I mean, first of all, hard drive space is so cheap now. Don't do anything but wave, because it's garbage in, garbage out. If you can give your processor the cleanest possible audio, it can do amazing things, but it needs to have that pristine audio. Second of all, you have cascading codecs, especially with HD, where you encode something, even in AAC. Then it gets re-encoded and chopped up and that sort of thing. And so in order for these codecs, like for streaming and for HD, in order for them to have a chance, they have to have everything they can to work with. And if you've already taken all the stuff you can't hear out of it, then it starts to take things you can hear. So yeah, I mean, it's very much garbage in, garbage out.
Yep. Dustin, any final thoughts on processing before we move on?
You need to make sure that you ask whoever you're getting your music from if it's not an automatic wave download, and if you use Play MPE. Obviously, New Music Server gives you a choice to download WAV or MP3. And I Like Music, which is fairly new. It's the iTunes for broadcast we've been asking for years. You have to put in the settings to make sure that it's downloading waves for you. You want to insist on virgin waves that have never been saved as an MP3 and saved back. I found some of our promoters have tried to do that and we'll just save the wave MP3 as a wave and send it back. Like, no, it still sounds like crap. Send me what we're asking for.
back in the film days, you put a picture on film out of focus, you're not going to get it back in focus in the dark room. That's not how that works. Dustin, we're real quick, let's talk about SBE. I think you mentioned that you had been did I hear right? You've been a mentee and now you're available as a mentor with SBE?
I was a mentee. In fact, my mentor, talking back to 2 years in TV news, but not as engineering, just as a photog and MMJ and microwave truck operator, always wanted to get a little bit of an insight of how the TV air chain works. And I ended up with Jim Corbin, who is chief engineer for Fox 4 in Dallas-Fort Worth. So it was a great relationship. They're in the middle of building a brand new plant. It's going to be quite something. And he has stepped back on who he's mentoring. And I was talked into making myself available as a mentor out here in the middle of Central Texas, they don't have anybody for me yet, but I'm kind of excited about that. SBE has been a great resource for me, and especially the webinars, the group discussions, my chapter when I can make it the end of the month and drive all the way to Arlington for a meeting. But have been absolutely great resources. And I did decide to study for certification and am a CBRE also as of last year. So I did extra in CBRE in the same summer.
Wow. Congratulations. That's awesome. Gentlemen, I'll mention you're watching or listening to This Week in Radio Tech. It's our 739th episode. I'm Kirk Harnack along with Chris Tarr and Dustin Tatro. Dustin is an engineer in Abilene, Texas, and a man of many talents. So it's great to talk to him as well and find out how, it's amazing how his experience and Chris Tarr's and a bit of my own, mesh pretty well. So maybe we're on the right track. Speaking of SBE, Dustin and Chris, coming up just a couple days prior to the NAB show in Las Vegas, there's going to be an SBE Ennis workshop. And there's 2 tracks going on. You register for the Ennis workshop. You can flip back and forth between the tracks. You pay one movie price. You can switch between theaters if you want to. And I got a chance to talk to David Bialik about the Ennis workshop, what's coming up and what's important there and why you should go. Hey, even if you're not going to NAB, it's cheap to fly, relatively cheap to fly to Las Vegas. There's hotel rooms everywhere. And, you can go to the Ennis workshop and learn a lot. There's so much effort going in to packing 2 days of information into that. Okay. We're going to hear from David Bialik in just a couple of minutes. And then at the end of our show, Chris and Dustin will be back to give us a tip of the week. But right now, Chris is going to talk to us about audio processing for microphones. And he's not using it right now, but he's got a lot of experience because he does a radio show every day with this mic processor. Chris, tell me about the Smooth processor.
Yeah,
unfortunately,
my office studio downstairs is a mess, so that's why we're not down there today with the mic processor. But Angry Audio has hit it out of the park again. They have some new mic processors, and they're called the Rebel and the Smooth, and I'll tell you why in just a minute. But basically, the challenge was this. Catfish was like, we're doing so well with the Chameleon line of audio processors. What if we did a mic processor? Now, the one thing about Catfish is he likes simplicity. He likes things that make sense. And he feels that mic processors have way too many knobs that can get you into trouble. So he went to Corny, who, is the processing guru, and said, hey, are we able to design a mic processor that doesn't have so many knobs? And Corny said, well, no, because, you use so many different mics with so many different personalities, you need all of those knobs to make it all work. So Catfish had the brilliant idea of, well, what if we knew what mic was going into it? And that's when Corny went, oh, the light bulb went on. And he said, yeah, we could totally do that. So that's how these were born. Now, the Smooth is for the SM series of microphones by Shure. The Rebel is for the RE20 series of microphones by Electro-Voice. Now, they'll work with similar microphones. For example, the RE20, 27, 320, the SM7, SM5. They'll all work with these mic processors, but they're so simple and they sound so good because they're already tuned. So these things are already set up with Corny's golden ears with the algorithms to make you sound good. Now, there are some little adjustments. There's a density control, and there's a high and a low trim, and there's a gate and a de-esser. By the way, I've never used a de-esser on a microphone processor until now because typically that de-esser just basically clips off the high end. This, I don't know how he does it, but it's almost magical. I can see it light up and I can hear it working, but it's very transparent. I can hear when I go that it's not getting the high end, but it sounds really, really natural. And the gate, they call it room size. And basically what it does is it all but eliminates the sound of the room around you without clipping in and out on your voice. It really is some really cool stuff. But I love it. I use it every day when I do my voice tracking. I have an RE20 and the Rebel mic processor. And it's amazing how big market and big this thing sounds without any kind of major tweaking or anything else. I've adjusted the input level tweak the EQ just a little bit, but right out of the box, it sounds fantastic. So, what's great is you can make all of your mics in your studio sound the same. They can sound consistent from person to person. The algorithm takes care of that as well, and so you're not messing around with these boxes that have all of these knobs and different things that people can get into trouble with. You can't make this sound bad. It sounds great, and in fact, their line dipped in butter. That's what it sounds like. I sound fantastic. So go to the Angry Audio site, check it out, and also contact your favorite distributor to get more information on the Angry Audio Rebel and Chameleon. I love it. I use it, and you'd have to pry it out of my cold dead hands because it sounds that good.
Thanks, Chris, and thanks to Angry Audio for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech. Imagine Chris Tarr dipped in butter. But moving on,
No, don't imagine that. Whatever you do.
We're going to talk for a second about Max Connect and the U.192. There are several FM audio processors now that are available that run in software. There is the Omnia SST. There is Stereo Tool. There's Breakaway One. These all run in Windows environments on Windows computers. I've got an Omnia SST that's been running for years on a server grade platform on Windows, and it's wonderful. And if you need to get high quality MPX, that is, the analog BNC connector, multiplex or composite signal out of this, what do you do? Well, some people send micro MPX from one place to another, and that's a possibility. But if you need the local MPX signal to be there, that's kind of a problem because yes, there are a few sound cards on the market that kind of work, but they also have a lot of limitations. So Josh Bone and Mike Dosh got together and they designed the Max Connect U.192. This is an amazing, amazing box, purpose-built to get your FM multiplex signal out of your computer, where it's being processed. And so you can send it right into your transmitter, if that's local, or to your, let's say, your 950 megahertz STL system. Or even if you have a digital multiplex STL system. This gives you a beautiful, very clean multiplex signal out. It also has provisions for analog or AES-EBU going into your computer, so you can get beautifully clean audio without using the computer's sound card, which are known to be noisy, and you just get great audio in and out of this thing. It's the U.192 from Max Connect. Max Connect can make your life a lot easier with the services that they offer, including Max Connect Wireless and this U.192 MPX USB sound card. Love this thing. It works great. Thanks a lot, Max Connect, for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech. All right, let's real quick hit up this quick interview with David Bialik. Pay attention. This is good stuff. I'm going to be there, absolutely, with bells on, and I hope to see you there too. Let's check it out. Years past, is heading up a big event at NAB, well, just before NAB in Las Vegas, something that I've been invited to participate in. I appreciate that, David. Tell me what is coming up at NAB.
Well, first, I want to let you know that not only I, but also Fred Willard is co-chairing this with me. It's the Ennis workshop at the 2025 NAB convention. Mm-hmm. So, and it's SBE Ennis at NAB as they're branding it. We are putting 2 days of straight sessions together. We're discussing technology and technique. There's not going to be any sales presentation, so people are there to learn. Last year, we were totally sold out and had no seats available. And this year, they're giving us a bigger room, and people will be able to register and come to the event. The registration is on the NAB website, or you can go to the SB website and register, because it'll take you to the NAB website.
Ah, okay. So when you're looking for this, what keywords are we looking for? SBE Ennis Workshop?
Yes.
Okay. And, this word Ennis, it's a last name named after Mr. Ennis. Can you tell me anything about Mr. Ennis?
Mr. Ennis was a very educated man who wrote many of the manuals that probably you and I used to study for our FCC exams back in the early days of the 80s, I think it was, Kirk.
Okay.
or maybe the 70s.
Yeah.
Or for you, the 60s. And if you can get any of the Ennis books, they're worth it. You will always learn something. I do know I have a bunch on my shelf as well. And he was also one of the founders of the SBE, and I know when he passed away, his family gave the rights to a lot of his books to SBE, and also started up the Ennis Foundation, which sponsors these workshops. And
Okay.
you might know that the local sections might have Ennis workshops throughout the country. This is the biggest of the Ennis workshops.
Gotcha. Yes, and I do remember it was standing room only and sold out last year at NAB. What are we learning about? Is there a theme?
Well, Fred and I are heading up the Media over IP track, and the Media over IP track will be 2 days, as well as there's an RF 101 track headed up by our good friend Jeff Welton.
Oh, okay.
But we've got. I'm figuring we have maybe 20 or maybe I'd say maybe 20 to 30 sessions in the 2 days where you will learn. And you're not sitting for sales presentations. You're sitting and learning like new standards, old standards. We're going to be talking about MADI. We're going to be talking about IP. As a matter of fact, you're going to be talking about MADI.
Well, I got more expertise in IP. Oh, well, you know something? It's very timely to bring this up. In my full-time job at Telos Alliance, we are putting on. It's going to occur before NAB, but we're putting on a webinar about next generation audio for television. And I'll tell you what, I talked to several experts in television audio production technology, including one of the engineers for the Paris Olympics, the Olympics that were held in Paris and done by France TV. And the whole 2110 standard is really making inroads into television production. And we look at that because it includes audio and immersive audio and metadata to describe that immersive audio and other things. So media over IP, the topic of your 2 days at the Ennis workshop in Las Vegas, media over IP is a big thing. We are definitely, the whole industry is moving in that direction, some more quickly, some more slowly. So this is a very, very great topic for people to learn about, to further their education and to further their career, making themselves more valuable to their current or future employers, knowing about media over IP. Have I got that right?
Exactly. And 2110's audio portion is really the AES 67 standards. And the AES 67 standards, which is audio over IP, we're actually going to have a session. Telos will be on the panel, which you're going to be representing. We're going to have some other colleagues in the same field, John Davis from Wheatstone. We're going to have Al Sauke from SAS, and I'll be moderating that session talking about audio over IP and especially troubleshooting it, because it's a whole new thing, because you can't just take a pair of headphones and listen down the line. You got to figure out everything, and you're doing packet tracing and so forth. You're going to be using a packet analyzer like Wireshark or something, or Charles, and you have to know how to troubleshoot it. It's teaching a whole new technique to the old generation as well as to the new. And we all know that audio over IP is here. And a lot of people don't understand, why do I have to go IP audio and so forth? Guess what? It saves money because you're using less wire, and that wire does cost money. So that's one thing right there. If I had my druthers and had no problems with budgets or time, yes, I would love to be doing 25 pair cables, sticking the Molex or the D connectors on, and spending what would you say, around 3 months wiring a studio. Nowadays, you do it in a weekend, just putting on the RJ45s and just letting the routing switcher handle all the bundles of audio.
You know, in my own session or sessions that I'll be presenting, one of the things that I'll bring up is something that I personally experience almost every day. And I'll back it up. This past weekend, I made a quick trip to Mississippi, to my radio stations there. Had to upgrade a couple of PCs so they would run a newer version of our automation system. So, you know, basically popped in a new CPU and more RAM, and made sure they were on the network with good IP addresses and so forth. Made sure they were accessible remotely. And then I had to go troubleshoot a 14-year-old Dell server, and it's doing some very important online things right now for us. Silent sensing. It's doing a lot of ingest, and it's also acting as the receiving end for two different IP STLs that we're doing right now between two different cities in Mississippi. One is more or less permanent. The other one is because we have a transmitter down. We're transmitting from a kind of an N+1 transmitter, but we got to get the audio there. Anyway, my point is this. I was able to get the hardware installed, make sure that the IP addressing was good, that it was on the network properly, and that my remote access functionality was installed. And then I drove home, because everything else I was able to take care of in terms of software installation and pathing and routing and setting up a new STLs and silent sensors. I was able to do all that remotely from the comfort of right here, sitting right here at my home in my office. So IP, whether it's for video or for audio or for remote control or metadata or whatever, IP gives us just this wealth of convenience tools that we didn't have very conveniently with traditional broadcast technologies. That's one of the things I'm really excited about.
That and that 14-year-old computer. Did you have to change the fan?
Well, actually, I'm not going to troubleshoot that 14-year-old computer. Its fans are going nuts. They think that it's too hot. It's not. But anyway, I put a less old server in its place, and we're going to spend the next couple of days, just moving some functionality over. But we can do it all remotely. And then when we're done with the noisy server, I get to call the morning guy and say, "Hey, that box that's making all the noise? You know what? He doesn't even have to push the off button. I can turn it off remotely." So,
hey, Kirk, I want you to know that I think you sold me my first server back when you were selling DCS.
Oh my gosh! Wow, long time back. So, Dave, we need to wrap this up. Do you have any couple of highlights of programs within the sessions that you'd like to talk about?
Oh, sure. There's a lot. We're going to be discussing clocking. It is incredibly important that you understand what a PTP clock is and so forth. Yeah. We're going to be showing what's involved with fast channels and how quick they are to spin up and so forth, because not only TV, but radio stations are setting up fast channels right away, and that's free ad supported television. Get it on your Roku or your Amazon device or something, and everybody seems to be loving that. We're going to be discussing metadata, and that is an incredibly important thing to know, because not only are you telling the songs, you're sending your cue points for your music and so forth, but a lot of stations are actually using metadata to sell advertising as well, and they're putting ads on the radio that are just type, hey, if you need this lawyer, call so-and-so. Or if someone's advertising, they want the URL on the display.
Yeah,
and that's becoming more and more important. And we are going to be discussing the 2110 suite of standards, troubleshooting audio and video, all the different IP formats out there, and Also, if you register for media over IP, and let's say there's one session you're not interested in, you can always walk across the hall to RF 101 and go into their sessions. So it's 2 days of learning before you have to go into that show. And guess what? You're going to learn stuff that's going to only make you want to ask more questions at the show.
You're saying that if I buy a movie ticket and go to movie A and I think, you know what, I've seen this actor before, I'm going to go over to movie B. I can just walk out of that theater and walk in the other theater.
Absolutely. You just can't see the Rockettes.
David, we're about out of time. Remind us again where to go to register for this SBE Ennis workshop just prior to NAB in Las Vegas.
Okay. I will tell you to go to the NAB registration website or go to sbe.org and type in Ennis. And it's the first thing that comes up on their advertising board right on the front of the page there, the Ennis workshop at NAB. And no one left upset or felt like they wasted time. Last year, I was really shocked. All we got were thank yous. And usually people have a suggestion or two. Most of the time, people said, I wish this was 3 days.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And to tell you the truth, I wish it was 3 days too, but I also wish I had more time to do it. Because Fred Willard and I spent a good 6 to 8 months putting this together.
Yeah, you two are truly amazing. I mean, thank you for what you do for the industry. By the way, it's April 4th and 5th. It's at the West Hall in Las Vegas, and so it's easy to get to the West Hall. Lots of hotels around. That's what Las Vegas is all about. So it's a good time. And I know.
If you register, you do get lunch.
Okay, all right.
Okay, and when you walk into the convention and come into the session, just tell them, Kirk and Dave sent you.
All right. Dave Bialik, thank you so much. I will see you in Las Vegas at the West Hall on April 4th. How about that?
I'm looking forward to it, Kirk.
All right. Thanks a lot. We've got more coming up next on This Week in Radio Tech. And indeed, what we've got coming up next is a final word from Dustin Tatro, and that's coming up in a minute. Right now, though, we're going to hear from our friends at VoxPro.
Hey, what's happening? St. John here, coming to you from Command Central, and wanted to tell you about the absolute best partner you can have in radio. I'm talking about, boom, Wheatstone's VoxPro. Now, a lot of folks have used previous versions of VoxPro, all awesome, but I want to tell you about some of my favorite new features in 7. And for folks who've never used VoxPro before, I'm about to tell you why it's an absolute game changer and essential for really fast-paced multi-element radio. Lots of different audio software out there. Why VoxPro? Because it was designed for radio. It's the only software designed to do what we needed to do, which is record, edit, playback in real time. When I say lightning fast, I'm going to show you how fast you can edit stuff up in VoxPro right now. So literally 3 clicks on the controller, mark left, mark right, everything that gets marked, you hit delete, it goes away. It's literally that fast. So we're going to take this part right here. Boom. From caller 9 to him saying, I'm ready.
Ready for that secret sound.
Boom. All of that stuff, hit delete, it goes away. Here's your edit.
You are tackling secret sound caller 9. I'm ready, St. John.
So one of the best features of version 7, this is awesome. It's effects macros, and you can literally put a chain of effects together so that instead of having to normalize a phone bit and then use noise reduction on it and EQ it and all that, you can literally build a chain. One button, this one's called call right here. I just click that. All of those processes happen instantaneously. Literally saves 80% of your editing and cleanup time. Final thing that I love about VoxPro, and there's so much more to get into, but one of my favorite things, you can load it on a laptop. I've literally done my show from a hotel room in Armenia to the conference room at, this was fun, jury duty. Great thing, no one could tell the difference. VoxPro makes it totally easy. Telling you, if you're looking for the best on-air partner, call my friends at Wheatstone, ask them about VoxPro, and you will be glad you did.
Actually, call the folks at Broadcasters General Store because they sell Vox Pro, and they'll get you a discount on it too, and they'll tell you about delivery. You go to BGS, Broadcast General Store, bgs.cc, or you can call them at 352-622-7700. And really appreciate Broadcasters General Store for bringing you This Week in Radio Tech, at least this portion of it. Thanks a lot. All right, it's time to wrap things up. And, our guest on today's show, aside from David Bialik talking about the SB Ennis workshop at NAB in Las Vegas, is our guest is Dustin Tatro. And Dustin is an engineer out in Abilene, Texas. Dustin, you're still the transmitter site, right?
We are getting wrapped up. We just charged the line, and it's holding pressure, so that's always a good thing.
Hey,
engineering, but the music and the on air is still the part I enjoy the most. I got to be real.
Yeah, well, see, it's good to be multi-talented, and also if you're an engineer and you're on the air, these cross-feed each other. In as far as information, it's bad being an engineer and the talent tells you, "Oh, this is porked; it doesn't work right." Okay, well, what doesn't it do? I don't know, it doesn't work right. So you're on top of both items, and that works really well.
It's like, why does my TLM 103 sound so muffled? And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm the guy that's supposed to fix that.
That's right. Well, it's time for a tip of the week, Dustin, and I didn't give you much notice, but a little bit. Do you have a tip you'd like to pass along to your fellow engineers?
All of the sales and programming people are talking about the new time that makes an average quarter hour and TSL and all of that. The music you play, stop sets that are too long, but your sound is going to turn people off if it hurts to listen to. It's scientifically proven that the female ear hears things differently than the male ear. Not the fact that we've listened to too much rock music and are deaf ourselves, but talk to your female listeners, talk to your male listeners and say, hey, how is our station sounding? You may hear it sounds too harsh. And to your ears, it sounds great, but to every female listener in your community, you may be blowing them away. And if they've got a choice, they will make a choice. Hey, the best views, especially here in Texas, are the ones that have a guy wire in them, right?
I love it. Yes, indeed. So if I could kind of reframe what you just said, your audio quality is important. It's important, especially that you don't have anything annoying going on, because you don't want people to tune away, and they really couldn't tell you why they tuned away, but something was getting on their nerves. And because most of the general public. Go ahead.
For me, as an organist that has noticeable and measurable high frequency loss, at least I know what it is and can compensate for that. If I was not aware of that, I would try to compensate and make us a lot brighter than we need to be. And that would, I have had female listeners that said that's actually painful. So definitely do not be afraid to ask your listeners, what do we sound like?
That's a great point. Because again, you sure don't want them to tune away, and they don't know why. It just was getting on their nerves, and that's a good reason too. And what females think is pretty important. And I think what audio uneducated people think is important as well, as long as they give you some opinion. Dustin, thank you for your time. I appreciate you coming to us today from your tower site. Again, that station's what? KORQ, is that it?
That's right. It's a David Clement station. And I wish I was working on one of our own sites today, but sometimes you get called to help others.
Okay. So the site you're at now is not a West, was it West Tex? It's not one of those
communications. This site is actually one of my direct competitors for the Patriot, our Texas country station, and a former employer of mine, but still good friends with the owner. And again, my owner and he do some business and are friends. We provide some of their internet at some of their locations. So we got asked to help them out.
Well, it's good to all just get along and, compete on the radio, not behind the scenes. That's right. All right, Dustin, thanks so much for joining us. Yeah. Oh, hey, don't hang up yet. We're gonna snag a picture of you in just a second. Next week on This Week in Radio Tech, we're gonna have a show about tower safety. Interesting that we were just at a tower site with Dustin, but we've got 3 professionals from the tower industry. We're going to be talking about tower safety procedures, and what the current current climate is and the current rules are for tower safety. So that's going to be coming up next week on This Week in Radio Tech. And then in another week to come, John Bissett is going to be with us as well. So it's going to be good. Okay. It's time for us to go. Big thanks to Suncast, our producer of TWiRT. And he's he's been busy today. I appreciate all the work that he's done. We'll see you next week on This Week in Radio Tech. Bye-bye.